Hello everyone, and it's nice to be here. And I know I always wanted to share this topic with people because I find it pretty interesting because it's kind of a niche topic because no, we are not so used to develop video platforms with React, especially with React Native. So without further ado, let's start. And welcome to this talk, which is a 4-year retrospective in building a video player from scratch with React Native. But before starting, I wanted to state what is a retrospective, because I would love to structure this talk as a pure retrospective. A retrospective, I looked for the definition and I came across this one, which is a retrospective is a chance for a team to reflect and learn from the past without a structured meeting. So, in terms of retrospective, we intend a meeting or a session in which we take a look at what we did. So, all the good things we did in a project, all the bad things we did, so what didn't go well, we come out with some action items and some possible solution. So a retrospective is an occasion for every team to look back, reflect to the past, and move on, improving the product. Because I love working in product. So I'm technical lead in this company, which is called Learn, and I am a software engineer, which is very passionate about product development. So everything around product, marketing, design, UI, UX. I love this kind of stuff. So I always focus it on product development. And this is a product which was born a lot of time ago, 4 years, which is a startup we did found in 2020 in Italy, but I will talk about it later. So what we're going to see today, we are going to see a project overview, so the project of the application. We will take a look at what went well during the development process. We are going to take a look at what didn't go well, which is, in my opinion, the most important part of the talk. Then we will move on to the lessons learned to hopefully save you some errors that I've done in the past while developing it. And we will, after, review all the action items. So all the stuff that we can do to improve the product and to keep achieving flawless development. And so let's start with a project overview. Learn is a startup, as I said before, which was born in 2020 in Italy. It was bootstrapped without founding, and the main product is a video platform. So we are video streaming services which offer a lot of digital marketing courses, advertisement courses. So the goal is to make digital competencies accessible to everyone, with everyone. So the main language of the platform is in Italian. We are only in the Italy market, but since we launched, we reached 170,000 plus users. We have 350 and plus courses, and this is a premium model. It means that you can register for free to the platform and then purchase a subscription to watch all the content, because you can watch the 30% of the content, and then if you want to watch more, you have to pay the service, which is $10 a month. So it's quite low as a price. The main product is the web application, but we still have the mobile application. This was the first version of the mobile application in 2020. It was kind of an MVP. As you can see on the right, we couldn't even scroll the timeline on the video, but we built the application from scratch. So it was made with React Native and with React Native Video, which is a popular library for video managing in React. So the player currently is this one. We have a lot of features.
Se siete interessati ad entrare nel mondo della programmazione o anche solo a divertirvi, perché questo che si tratta alla fine, questo è il corso che fa per voi. Infatti, per tutta la durata di questo corso, oltre a divertirci come dei matti, andremo a vedere come realizzare prodotti di ogni tipo sostanzialmente.
These were functions that we implemented in following years, so in 4 years. And this was made entirely from scratch with React Native Video, as I said before. At the moment of speaking is 6.4 version, but now the first version was 5.2.1. We used custom components, so without external libraries, we did everything from scratch. And we use an open source library, which is React Native Bottom Sheet, to display all the bottom parts. And it works quite well on Android and iOS. And so we will move on to see even this part, which is the bottom sheet, in which you can insert, and it has a lot of animations. But the main topic we are talking about is the video. So we will see now what went well during the development process. So what went well was the streaming, which HLS, so all the streaming part, because I forgot to say to you that we developed from scratch even the streaming infrastructure. So we don't use Vimeo or YouTube, but we have a custom infrastructure built on AWS. Went well the subtitles and transcripts part, as you said before, and the iOS performance, because it was quite good on iOS. This is the HLS streaming. So we use a custom infrastructure built on AWS that I've done another talk on this topic. So if you want to go to my website and check it out, I will explain everything about building a complete infrastructure for video streaming on AWS. So what you have to know, since we are talking about React, is that the backend gives to you these URLs, which are the playlists of the video that you can pass to the player. So the files are in .m3u8. So this is the common file, the HLS playlist, which adapts to the connection. So if users has full connection, the video will still go on, but with reduced resolution. So it adapts automatically to the device, to the connection. So this is independent of the connection. We have a lot of outputs. As you can see here, even the MP3 output, if you want to allow the users to listen only to the audio, but we use the HLS URL, so the playlist. And this worked very well with all devices and all different devices, both on iOS and Android. Then we moved on to develop the subtitles and transcripts part. So at the moment of when we developed at first in 2020, in React Native Video, there wasn't the possibility to style the subtitles, and you cannot position. So as you can see on the right, this was the default position that the player allowed to display the subtitles. So we decided to develop a custom component, which we didn't release yet, but is internal. We converted all subtitles in types and objects. So as you can see on the left, this is what comes out of the transcripts. So VTT file, which is a file that contains all the quotes at a given time. So for instance, on the first part, you can see the first part, the first sentence. It tells you when it is being pronounced. Then we translated this with a parser into a commonly type, so which has an ID, a start time, a stop time, the text that the person is saying, and the author. In this way, you can even you can do whatever you want with this kind of object. You can display it with a component, and as you can see here, we built a custom hook, which takes two props. One is subtitles, so the array of objects that I've shown you before, and player proxy. Player proxy is the player itself, so the hook uses the player state to display the subtitles at the given time. So if the player has a given time of, for instance, 60 seconds, and in the VTT at 60 seconds a quote is being pronounced, we can display and return the current block. As you can see in the set block by time function, you get the current time, the current index, get current queue. I didn't show you the function, but it's a function to find the current sentence which is being pronounced based on the time, and then you return the current block. So you can display it whatever you want, like this. So you instance this hook, which is your subtitles, you pass the subtitle objects, you pass the player proxy, and you obtain the current block, and you can insert it in a text and display it. So if there's no current block, the current block is not displayed. So this is automatic and goes on very well, even with the transcripts. As you can see here, we can position wherever we want. We can, even on the web part, we can use React Draggable to drag the subtitles. You can do whatever you want with these kind of transcripts. And let's move on to the other part, which is iOS performance. As you can see here, this is from Firebase. We have a pretty good performance on iOS because, as you can see here, the crash rate is quite low. There are no exception or problems of any sort, and it's very fluid. The animation works very well. The audio background works very well. It means that if you play a video and you close your phone and the display shut down, it keeps working. The video is very smooth and the animations are very, very smooth. So this was the implementation on 2020 that moved on and had great performance. But the most interesting part is this one: what didn't go well. So as you can see here in this funny picture, there's the learn player, and the name of this cute girl that destroyed our player was Android. Yeah, Android was kind of a pain for us at first because in 2020, React Native Video was not so supportive because it was very, very well maintained, but given the majority of devices having different hardwares, didn't go well because we had some troubles. And now I will explain you why. So the first part was the Android player that didn't go well. So the core player of the operating system. Then the audio background. So when you lock your phone and you keep reproducing the video, it was getting stuck, getting crashes, and I will explain you later. And didn't go well even the part of the behaviors, because between iOS and Android, we had a lot of different behavior in different scenarios. So let's see what we are talking about right now. So Android natively uses two kinds of player. One is media player, which is a class that allows you to reproduce audio, but it's the first class that we use, because React Native Video was using this one in the first version. And then there's ExoPlayer, which is an advanced version with more function and even more support, which is more smooth and fluid. But at first we did use media player because it came out of the box from React Native Video, the library. The first version had, as I said to you, a lot of problems. It had distorted or missing audio, the player was unresponsive, we had buffering problems, and as you can see on the right, it's written in Italian because this is a document that we use to map all the bugs. So we asked a lot of our users to test the application, and we collected all the feedback, ranked with priority. As you can see, a lot of the first row is in Italian, but it says the audio is not starting, and 82 people had this problem. So we wanted to tackle this stuff. And we looked for a solution for a lot of time until we found this solution, which is 2 lines of code. But these 2 lines of code took months to discover that this was a solution, because the solution was to force the React Native Video library to use ExoPlayer, which is the more advanced player, but it was not written in documentation. So we did a PR to update the documentation. We tested with real users this new solution, forcing ExoPlayer, the more performant player, which is native. We tested and we released a new version in production. On the right, can you see a list of emails that we sent to our user with a lot of test cases that allowed the user to test the application and give the feedback to us. Then we did this PR to update the documentation in order to tell our users that were doing the same stuff to use this kind of player, because it took a lot of months to discover this kind of solution and a lot of tests. But yeah, we resolved it in this way. The other part was the Android background audio, because at first it is supported by React Native Video. So when you lock your phone, React Native Video still works, but there are no controls in the notification center. So this was it cannot display the controls in the notification center. You cannot control the video, play, seek, and stop the video. The first solution that we adopted in 2020 was to use 2 players. One was React Native Video with plain background false. So when you close the phone, React Native Video stops. Then with the audio, use another player, which is React Native Track Player, which is a module that is used to play audio files and displays the notification controls. But this solution involved listening, if you're familiar with React Native, listening to a lot of changes in the app state. App-state.add-event listener allows you to listen when the app goes in background, when it is inactive. So in this case, when the app went in background, we switched to the track player, so to the audio. When the app became active in the last row, you can see that we switched to the video. So it involved a lot of syncs, but syncing 2 player is not a good choice, because you have some lag, you have some problems with the sync and synchronization of the time. So it was not a good solution. So we tried the second solution. The second solution was to use still the video, with plain background true. So to use as a player, React Native Video, and to the controls, this kind of module, which was a React Native Music Control, which is a library that only displays the control notification center, but it is not a player. It's only a UI library. This worked well because we didn't have to listen to a lot of changes in the state. On the right, you can see how to instance music control as play, as stop. So you listen to the changes of the status of the player, and it's quite easy to import. But it came with some problems because, so let's talk about the pros at first. So you don't have load time between foreground and background. So the switch is instant. The screen is not re-rendered. And you have native event system management. What does it mean? If I take out my earphone, the player stops. So you can handle this kind of situation, incoming calls, and it was pretty good. But it came with some cons. So we consumed greater data because we use the video as a source and not the MP3. So the user consumed a lot of more of megabytes. The module is no longer maintained, now speaking. So you have to maintain it on your own. And native development is needed for future Android versions because starting from Android 13, there are some problems with the kind of module. So it had this kind of con. And the other problem is that it led to some crashes. So a lot of crashes happened because of this kind of module. So, and we have finally different behaviors between Android and iOS. What do I mean by that? If you're familiar with React Native, you use platform to detect which platform are you on. And if you look in the code base, in the first code base, there was a lot of checks in which we checked if the system is iOS, do something. If the system is Android, do something. You don't want to have these kind of behaviors because it is difficult to maintain. And even here, as you can see, if platform is Android, change state, seek the player, and if it's iOS, do another thing. So they are on a different order, but yeah, you don't want to have this kind of problem. So take in consideration this if you want to develop a custom player with React Native, because there's a lot of different behaviors between iOS and Android due to the fact that the native system operates differently between iOS and Android. So you have to test a lot and came across a lot of problems. But yeah, this is the part. So even here, this is a different state. And the difference is the behavior, because on Android, even we had a higher crash rate. 10% of the users had problems, which is high expected to if compared to iOS. So this was not pretty good. So we wanted to solve this problem. What are the lessons learned by this kind of development? So managing dependencies and version is hard because we had a lot of dependencies in the project. So managing all the updates and the updates between the dependencies and the compatibilities is very, very difficult. And in the long term, using many modules is quick in short term because you are fast in development, but in the long term it slows you down because you have to remove them sometimes because they're not more compatible and they're not updated. So I would suggest to avoid using too many modules, but sometimes you can develop something on your own because it's simple, but you have to maintain it. But yeah, in the long term, you don't have to remove it and you are maintaining it. Then removing a feature is worse than not developing it in the first place. What do I mean by that? We developed the audio background feature to the users, but on iOS was perfect and on Android was having problems. But if we remove the features, users from iOS would complain, but users on Android are still complaining. So at first, I would not have developed this kind of feature. I would have started very, very lean with small features, but that were working very well, not with some problems. And after that, learn once, run anywhere, more or less. Let's say that you have to test a lot of stuff if you're doing this kind of niche product and this video on React Native, because as I said, there are differences between iOS and Android and the behaviors. So you have to be careful of that. Action items. So what are the action items? What are the solutions to these problems? So the first action item is to reduce the number of dependencies, because as I said before, it slows you down sometimes and you can avoid using too many dependencies. We wanted to reduce the number of crashes on Android, so to make the same crash rate on than iOS. Then we wanted to improve the stability on Android. And for this, we had a solution, which is to update React Native video library. Yeah, you could say this is easy, update a library and that's it. But as you can see here, the first version that we were using was updated in 2022 React Native, but the following stable versions were released 2 years later. So we had to wait 2 years to update the library and fix all of these problems. So now we are in contact with the maintainers and of the library, so it's more easier to develop this kind of stuff. But first, we have to wait 2 years and to try to natively fix on our own all the problems. So it's not an easy ride, but right now, if you want to use this model, it's pretty stable. It's not like in 2020. It's very well maintained, documented, and I would suggest to use it. So feel free to reach out if you have any issue with React Native video, because we're in contact with the maintainers and we can help you out if you want. So I hope to, in these 20 minutes, to have to give to you a quick overview, because there's a lot to talk about this kind of project on the player. But yeah, so feel free to reach out on Twitter, via email, check out my website if you want to know more about what I do, and even about the other talk that I've done and about the streaming architecture. You can find it on my website, which is in English. So you can feel free to reach out and to check all my content. So thanks for having me. It was very, very good to be here.